radio show with Fred Schneider, who is from up in Chicago, all right, who has Overpasses for America. He used to be the national admin of Overpasses for America. And Vladimir would be up there in Chicago with Fred and with everybody else standing up, speaking out, and getting involved when Obama was in the White House. Okay? This is a great American, but I'll let him tell his own story from another country, but now he's nationalized, and he's more American than most Americans in this country because he stands up, speaks out, and gets involved. Vladmir Sliva.
Okay, thanks for the nice introduction. And I don't have to say a lot of stuff because you already said that. So I'm Vladmir Sliva. And I do have a little list, but anyway, so I was born in socialist Czechoslovakia. We had what was officially called there dictatorship, okay? And then, well, we left when we were in our early 20s with my wife, who's recording me over there. She has the mega head, so you can tell who she is. And 1983, we got here from refugee camp. Like Reagan accepted us to this country, unlike, you know, Biden is blocking the Cubans today, but we were welcomed by Reagan, having escaped from socialism. And so we spent 8 months in a refugee camp in Europe, and then, you know, they did all the medical stuff and all kinds of things I could talk about forever. And, you know, chest x-rays, and then we came here, and we became US citizens before the Velvet Revolution, which nobody really expected, you know, at that time. And so that was a nice time. We thought, well, freedom came, and you know, but then things started to deteriorate again internationally. So the list I was mentioning, you know, I created even for myself. You know, there are two basic items. One is what's similar lately, comparing socialism and what's happening here today, as some people refer to. And also, I mean, maybe the positive is what's different still, okay. And so besides having lived there and here, what's my qualifications? Basically, I just have a PhD in electrical engineering and computer science, and I spent many years in research and development, and like 20 years in fixing problems. So that's what also helps when I'm describing the situation. You have to do analysis, which is the big part of my points here, and then, well, you have to find what to do with it, and I still need to finish that part. But you know, other than we need to have fair elections again in this country, that appears to be the main thing that has to happen. Okay. Anyway, so let's go through my points, and I may have missed something. So you can, after I'm done reading, you know, you can ask questions and you can go through details, and I'll be very happy to tell you more, because, you know, it's very hard for me to guess what you are interested in, you know, unless you ask. And last time we did that, and it was very educational for everybody. I answered a lot of questions, so that was great. Anyway, so what's similar today? Unfortunately, the first thing I wrote down is censorship. So that when we came here to the US, we did not have that here, right? And so it's something new you guys find, you know, starting not that long time ago. And that's what we grew up with, very strict censorship. So then my second point was what's similar between socialism I experienced, and which was advanced socialism, and now what's happening here is kind of starting socialism, which makes it a little harder for me to compare as well. But anyway, second item on that similar list is that globalist decisions are being made against our own country. And, so Czechoslovakia was doing trades which didn't make sense, was buying things from countries just to help them out. And, it didn't make sense at all. The US is helping China, right, today, against our own self-interests. Or, on the other hand, they are not helping Cuban protesters against socialism. So basically, the third item is support of international socialism. The next item on my list is Marxist indoctrination by schools, media, and it's all going against all 10 commandments. And so that item is very interesting in the sense that we saw the schools being infiltrated even when we came here to the US. It's been deteriorating, but it was interesting that America let these communists take over schools, and that's not a very recent phenomenon. And again, it's just becoming worse, but it's been here for decades. Then, statues removed and history erased. That's what we experienced at the middle of socialism. We saw that it had happened already, whereas it's happening here today. Well, luckily President Trump stopped the statues removed temporarily, maybe. Then another similarity is persecution of dissent. Again, America, people have had differences and there were fights, but the real persecution is only starting now of the political dissent in this country. And the other thing in common is that elections are orchestrated. It was very obvious in Czechoslovakia, and it's pretty obvious here as well. To what degree, are there still local elections which are not orchestrated? I cannot tell about the US, but definitely when we look, at like the Georgia Senate rerun and presidential, no question in my mind. Okay. Then we were talking with my wife about my last item, what's similar between USA today and Czechoslovakian socialism. And this last item could be also put, depends how you look at it, could be put under the differences as well. So, but I have it under similarities. And what I wrote down is churches are largely under Marxist control due to infiltration and blackmail. Hundreds differences. I have like 8 or 9, whatever points. So maybe it's something to be positive about and to fight to keep and not lose at this point. Don't ask me how exactly, but You know, there was no private property in Czechoslovakia. You could own a house of certain size only, and if your house was a little bigger, then the government would move some tenants there. Okay. But as far as owning a company, that was out of question. Even the fields were not owned by individual farmers, really. Unless, you know, again, there were some small remnants, but not much. So that's the good thing. You know, we still have in the U.S. we have private property, which keeps some prosperity still. And the other thing is we still have and need to fight for is we still have guns among people here in the U.S. So that's something that's keeping socialism at bay, and we should keep it that way as much as possible. Okay, we have to use everything, like, you know, the laws, whatever, protests. Then what's different, there are still some media, and including internet, which are partially uncensored in the U.S. See, censorship where I grew up was perfect, almost perfect. If I wanted to know what was going on in the capital where I was living, I had to listen to London. Here. You know, we have those political prisoners from January 6th, you know, which are really treated unjustly. But you know, in the big picture, it's just, as of now, it's still an exception. And that was kind of a rule in Czechoslovakia, you know, many people were not only in prison, but in the beginnings of socialism, they murdered quite a lot of people in show trials, you know, to scare everybody from speaking. You guys don't know what it is to be scared and not to speak because you don't want to lose your job, right? So, but that was pretty normal in a socialist country. And I'm kind of joking, right? You probably know what I'm talking about. Anyway, but you know, we have to push back. So sure, you know your limits, and in my opinion, you have to push back to the utmost limit. In the sense, you know, you still defend your family, and you know, but you know what your limit is, which may be different than somebody else's. So, you know, if somebody's retired, there may not be as much worry, right? You know. So anyway, so that the other good thing about America, there are no executions of opposition yet. Okay. Nobody has been executed yet. They are being locked up in tyrannical jail in Washington, D.C. because somebody saw them in Capitol, inside Capitol on January 6th, but they still haven't been executed, right? And that's kind of simplification. We know of that lady who was shot dead, right? And there is no justice in that case, but It's not really an execution as such.
Ashley Babbitt's her name.
Yeah, Babbitt is her name, yes. And I'm trying to be general, but okay, but thanks. And I have five last items here. The other thing, which is still good, you could say, religious orders and non-communist organizations still exist. You know, in Czechoslovakia, they basically banned religious orders. They banned even Boy Scouts. Every organization which was not communist managed. Definitely what's going on, you know, with open border, southern border, where anybody from the world can come, you know, no matter whether they are sick or healthy or, you know, whatever, or criminals or whatever. That's definitely not a good thing. But that's what we did not have at the time when we lived there. It was very hard to get out from the country, almost impossible basically to like Western society. And you know, same thing, they monitored everybody very carefully, even those people who came in. And yeah, there are differences, slight differences between the ideology. You know, they were successful in Czechoslovakia using kind of dividing people between those who had factories and, you know, positions like that, and the others, like workers. And that worked pretty well for them. But in America, they don't get much traction with this. So they invented these other things, right? And you know, they are like, race is one example. They are trying to say, you know, Black Lives Matter and whatever. And that seems to be working for them here, unfortunately. And yeah, I already mentioned that the last item I have on my list, a difference between what we faced and what America faces, is the Pope used to be against socialism, and today it's just the other way around, unfortunately. So, you know, that I got to the end of my list. I hope it was brief enough that you didn't fall asleep. Nobody's sleeping. So anyway, just tell me if you want me to answer about any details. Actually, I do like to talk about names and stuff. Go ahead.
You read the differences.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, that's one of the reasons I even brought it up, because, you know, for us to see where we are in the process. And yes, I agree that they seem to be working on those differences to you know, like erase them, like take our guns so that we cannot defend ourselves, and you know, then they will have much easier job, right? If just one example, right? But everything else. So the question, you know, kind of deep question which I have no answer is how much of a private property are they willing to remove from people here, you know. So I don't have the exact answer, but we'll find out, maybe, hopefully not.
I have a theory that the pandemic,
No, I agree. Yeah, the pandemic is used not only for us to lose elections with the mailing of votes, but definitely to destroy small business.
Any more questions?
What do you see is the, okay, go ahead. What do you see as the major issue that is looking more like Yugoslavia than,
Czechoslovakia.
Czechoslovakia, than right here? The main thing that's happening here that you witnessed back there?
Well, what bothers me, well, of course the elections should bother us the most, each of us, right? But what also bothers me, like the second thing, is the censorship, because that's how they manipulate people. If you watch their TV, like CNN every day, it affects you, and so if they succeed in blocking every other source of information, then they are in a good shape, because many people will support them. Yeah, I don't have to criticize America. I see it in case of my own parents. My mom was pretty good anti-communist back then, and maybe she's still today, but all she does is watches TV in Prague, Czech Republic. And she's scared of this COVID, the China virus, and she believes everything the TV says. And they have no other sources of information. She doesn't know how to use internet, and she knows some English, but not enough to get as much info as I can. So it's very difficult conversation sometimes about the China virus when I talk with her on internet, because she doesn't believe me. she believes that her TV, which she watches every day, And again, she's smart, yeah, she's in late 80s, but still, she used to be very firm, non-communist in socialism,
Well,
So,
I got one for you. I'm behind you. How you doing? I got one for you along that lines about collective fear and stuff like that. Does anybody know who Bertrand Russell is?
Yes.
Oh, we got one person knows who he was? He was born in the late 1870s, and he was a polymath. He was a very smart man. And I actually wrote down one of the things that he said, and it fits right in with what he's saying. He says, collective fear stimulates herd instinct and tends to produce ferocity towards those who are not regarded as members of the herd. And that's pretty much what socialism and everything else like that is in a nutshell. It's creating that fear and getting them to hate anybody else that isn't them.
So what's your question, Vladimir?
I was just helping out.
he was helping me to answer that question. That was a good contribution. All right, any other questions? I'm very happy to talk, because I answered what's really on your mind, as long as she allows the time, right?
Dan broke down on the way here, so you get a little extra time.
Anybody?
words, they reject it because
Yep.
they are so inundated with that for 2 months. They reject the truth when confronted with the facts afterwards. And we're seeing that exactly today.
Yeah, they've proven these methods in socialism, you know, so like Obama and, you know, Biden, and, you know, they just reuse what's been proven by communists in socialist countries.
They're using the same playbook as they always use.
Yeah, and, you know, for example, I was like a month in some kind of training, military. That was not the main 1 year, which was ahead of me, but, you know, as a university student in Czechoslovakia, I went to 1 month, and during the technical university, and basically we had to watch TV every day, the news, 7 o'clock news every day. That was a mandatory part of the military training, full time, 1 month. Well, she was talking about CNN and US. I'm talking about Czech
It's the brainwashing.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is it's been proven to work. You know, see, Obama didn't have to invent anything. He just used proven communist techniques. Yeah. So that's what I noticed in Obama. So I consider the quarter of a century. I lived in '83 till 2008, till Obama, quarter century freedom. And then what I saw Obama do was really just rehashing what we had in socialism, you know. So he was just using those strategies and methods, you know. And that's when we became mostly politically active, like 2013, after we couldn't believe Obama won the second term. So we thought this is impossible, you know, that's not right. Anyway, so we started to speak up, but you know, it's hard when I don't know, you know, how to really address people, because I'm not really originally from this environment. So, but we do what we can. So.
I always ask myself why. You know, why are they doing this? And I believe it's because of money, and they want to make sure they want to secure their place as an elitist class. But then I ask, what can we do? I mean, other than hold events like this, which is great, but I mean, look, we don't have hardly anybody here, really. I mean, how do we rally this country to fight against this problem?
Stop paying taxes. If everybody stopped paying taxes, they wouldn't have any money coming in.
You asked 2 good questions, okay? One is easier than the second one. You know, why are they doing it? I would simplify my answer: because they are stupid, you know. You know, it is money and power, right? But in the end, when you look at it, they basically they were not very happy that they had all this power, because, you know, everything crumbled. They destroyed the country, like the whole country, Czechoslovakia. It used to be prosperous, then, you know, they took over and they destroyed it. And so, and they saw, if I were not a top guy and I would live in next West Germany, I would be better off, you know, and I wouldn't even have to be a top shot, you know. So they basically gave it up. They said, well, this system doesn't work, we quit. You know, it was not as much us winning as they losing, you know, after all these decades when they destroyed the country. So I say they are dumb, you know. That's the answer. Why are they doing it? Because they are stupid, you know. My answer. But how do we get out of it? That's much better question that I don't dare to have full answer to, you know. So again, as I said before, the best thing is each of us should feel responsible for pushing back as much as each individual can, and each of us has a different limit based on all kinds of factors, you know. So I wish I could give you a better answer. Anyway.
Anybody else? Oh, let me get over there.
What happened?
Mr. Speaker. Huh?
They're not designed to be directly in front of the horn.
I know it.
Right.
I didn't realize the speaker was there. Go ahead.
What did you see in Obama that started this?
Well, kind of high level, you know, what bothered me is how he approached the church and Christianity. He was clearly anti-Christian, you know, I haven't focused on Obama for some time, but that's the direction where I saw the similarities, basically.
If you ever watched his news conferences, he never had an American flag behind him. He always had a Muslim
Right.
thing.
Yeah, I draw kind of a blank on your detailed question. So I just remember, that's, my wife may help me. We saw some videos also, some analysis, which was very good. But, that was like 2008. I think it had to do with also pro-life, his fight against pro-lifers. Like specifically, he was the one pushing some specific law in Illinois, which was very anti-life. So I think that's probably what was the initial thing which caught my attention about Obama. He was very strongly anti-life, anti-Christian. There was this nurse who witnessed against him, but I don't remember those details anymore. I would have to dig it up.
We're in a spiritual warfare. Don't you guys really realize this? And it's the evil one causing this?
Yes.
And the thing is, you've got to understand that God's the only answer for all of this. And I know we've got to do our job too. But as far as doing our job, listen to Thomas DeVore, what he has to say, and Darren Bailey, and really try hard. But we're in a spiritual warfare. And on top of that, this church right here, why can't they preach the truth? Why can't the truth be preached and people take the blind eyes off? I mean, you can't
Agreed.
see your mind.
Yeah, we used to attend this church.
And we don't no more.
As a
It said something about they changed the law in Illinois, and it was all Democrats who did it. The law basically started to allow viable children to be killed, if they were being aborted, and they wouldn't die during abortion. The law was modified by Democrats like 3 years ago, roughly, that they would be allowed to die, even though they could previously, based on the previous laws, they would have been saved. And so we put it, succinctly on a big sign and stood in front of our own church. Yeah.
All right. That is Vladmir Sliva, everybody.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Everybody, Vladmir Sliva.
Lunch is going to be a little delayed because we had a delay on getting the charcoal here. So Randy's got them on, so we'll start lunch here in a little bit.